Well, hello and thanks for joining us this evening for a date with Sri Lanka. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Charlie from Putney Travel. Given that we're all in a bit of a state of lockdown, we decided to run a series of webinars that highlight some of our very favorite holiday destinations and the specialist partners that we work with. Today, I'm really pleased that we're able to be joined by our good friend Nick from Experienced Travel, who are just up the road in Clapham. We've worked really closely with Experienced Travel for our Sri Lanka holidays since Putney Travel was set up in 2013, and they're perfectly placed to give you a great insight into this beautiful, varied and fascinating country. I'm lucky enough, hopefully, to be going back later this year again, and I hope that this webinar will give you a flavour of the country once we're all able to travel once again. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nick. The presentation is going to be about 30 minutes or so, and there'll be time to ask questions afterwards. However, please feel free to use the chat button in the middle of your screen to ask questions as we go along, and I'll try to deal with those. So over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Charlie. Hi, everyone. Hope you're well, enjoying these very surreal and odd times. Yes, as Charlie says, I'm here to talk about Sri Lanka, which is a place very, very close to my heart personally, and also for our company. And to say, we've been sending lots and lots of clients with Charlie to Sri Lanka. Almost all of them of having fantastic times and great feedback. So I just thought I'd start. I don't know how much you guys you know of Sri Lanka, so I don't want to go into too much detail and kind of bore you with stuff you already know. But if you would like to know something a bit more, just as Charlie says, fire a question in on the chat and we can answer that. But I think the key point of Sri Lanka, the key sort of selling point really, I guess, is the sheer variety that the country has to offer. So this slide kind of gives you an example of that. So any kind of 2-week holiday that you take there, you get to experience such a variety of things. So whether that's the ancient monuments of the Cultural Triangle, you've got Sigiriya there on the top left, or the beaches, the fantastic wildlife opportunities, the amazing and interesting accommodation options, the beautiful tea country, the train trips, and the slightly kind of chaotic element that is summarized by that bus and people hanging out the side of it, and the bustling nature that's in the rural place, but the people and the color that they bring as well. It really is quite a kind of a magical place. So on a very basic level, I'll go into specific details. The island itself is kind of similar size to Ireland, obviously just off the kind of Indian south of India. And to get there, you can get direct flights. There's one airport, which is Colombo, is the capital there on the west coast, and the airport is just there. You can fly. I'm guessing most of you are in the kind of London area, and you can fly directly from Heathrow. But there are also a number of indirect options with the Middle Eastern airlines, Emirates, Qatar is a classic example. So yeah, plenty of options of getting there. Then I think some really important general points that are worth thinking about. Despite it being the same size of Ireland, it does take a bit of time to kind of get around. So if you look at Negombo and Kandy there on the map, that's about 150 kilometers. But that will probably take you sort of at least 4 hours and probably 5. So it's really important not to bite off more than you can chew. And also that's particularly enhanced by the previous slide and showing you that variety. People are so really keen to see everything, and understandably you want to see the elephants, you want to see the leopards, you want to see the Cultural Triangle, and the danger is that people kind of move around too much and try and fit too much in, and that can be a bit of a risk when planning the holiday. Fortunately, that's where, you know, Charlie and ourselves can be there to help you, but it is an important thing to think about. And I think a key point is how you get around and how that works. And I'll come on to this in a bit more detail later. But with one airport, you generally fly into Colombo, and then if you're doing a touring trip, the way it works is you get something called a chauffeur guide who will pick you up at the airport, and their name is, you know, self-explanatory. They are a chauffeur, but they are also your guide for that period when they're touring around, and they take you from place to place, and they facilitate everything. And you know, they're as much a facilitator as they are a guide, so they're there just to kind of make everything work. And then they typically, when you get to the beach, they'll leave you there to kind of explore a little bit more independently. So that's kind of how it tends to work. Another important factor that we bring, if you do book a trip through Charlie, is that we actually have a local experienced manager who is employed directly on the island. She's employed by ourselves, but she works out of the Colombo office, and she's there to kind of really help and look after and kind of almost effectively be a rep almost for you when you're out there. Now, what that means in reality is that if anything were to go badly wrong, which, you know, we obviously hope it doesn't, but travel is travel, and things do happen, she is there to help you with that. So, you know, make any changes, do anything like that, be that kind of last resort. But in practice, what she does much more is be there as a facilitator. So she gets clients texting her every day saying, which restaurant would you recommend I go to? You know, can we tweak this around a little bit? Can we make this change? Can we do that? What would you suggest in here? Or we found this really interesting. Can we do some more of that? And that really does make, you know, just smooths over any cracks, and just means that you can adjust that holiday to go with whatever flow it is that you're feeling at that time. Another important basic is the kind of the when to go, which is a little bit complicated, in that I mean, the simple thing is that our winter is best. So January to April is the best time. But July to September is quite a clever time. And we send lots of families, for example, in July and August, but September is a very good way. What you get, and often people are confused by the weather, and so you get people that give you wrong information, or websites that give you wrong information. And the reason for that is you've got two climatic zones. So on the southwest, effectively, you've got the wet zone, and the north and the east, you've got the dry zone. The wet zone, essentially, if you drew a line from Negumbo to Kandy to Ella and then back down to Gaul, that would be pretty much your wet zone. And what happens is that gets rain twice a year, whereas the dry zone only gets rain once a year. And the first rain that comes in happens in May and June. So that's why May and June is no good in the southwest, but that doesn't affect the north and the east. And then that stops, and you get the inter-monsoon period, July to September, where the south and the west is still quite good, and the north and the east is still excellent. And a lot of people get that slightly confused and think you can only go to the east in July to September, and that's not necessarily the case. So beware of that. Again, obviously we can help that with those discussions, but as a general rule, as I say, January to April is best, and July to September is a good time. But beware the false information. So just at that point, that's me kind of covering the basics of the kind of the country, the logistics, etc., and so on, the kind of the slightly more boring stuff, I suppose. But as I said, I didn't want to go into huge amounts of details there, and if people weren't interested. But is there anything that that anyone feels that I've missed, or that there's any questions that they have just at this stage about that sort of area?
All I'd add in there, just on the weather bit, Nick, is basically whatever time of year you go, it's gonna be hot, isn't it? Barring it being right up in the mountains.
Yeah. Yes. Good point. Yeah. Good. That is a good point. Yeah. So the centre of, which is why the weather is a bit odd in Sri Lanka, the centre of the island, so if you kind of imagine a circle from Kandy, Hatton and Ella and out a little bit, is the hill country. And that affects the zones, but anywhere outside of that is very hot and very tropical. So it's pretty much going to be 30 degrees at any point. The exception of that is if you get into the higher hills around kind of Ella, for example, the temperature will drop to about 20 again at all times of the year. So it's more the rain and the humidity that changes as opposed to the temperature. But that, yeah, good point, Charlie.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move on. So this is just to kind of cover the kind of the highlights, really. So the main areas that people want to cover. So the first one that people do is kind of the cultural triangle, which is is kind of the centre of the island, north of the hill country, and in the dry zone, but very, very interesting part of the world. So there's lots of ancient sort of monuments. The culture of the triangle aspect is the three former capitals of Sri Lanka. So you've got Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Kandy, although in the tourist sense that's shifted down and they replaced Dambulla with Kandy. And probably the most famous of the sites and the most spectacular is Sigiriya, which is this place on the top right. It's a slightly bonkers place. On the top of that rock is a palace that was built 1,000 years or so ago. And that rock is as sheer as it looks. So as you climb up, it's kind of slightly difficult to get your head around how the hell they built a palace on the top of that. But it's an amazing site, and the views from the top are absolutely incredible. You then have Dambulla, which is a rock temple, which is on the bottom left. And beautiful, very, very interesting site, interesting temples, interesting sort of statues, and it's quite a short visit, but is very interesting. And then you have Polonnaruwa, which is probably the most visited, but Polonnaruwa and Anuradhapura are both ancient cities. Anuradhapura, about 2,000 years ago, at the time, was a sort of civilization that rivaled, the great civilizations of the world at that time, and they did some amazing things architecturally, and they did the irrigation system that is absolutely incredible. It's probably less overtly obvious, is the way I often describe it, as a comparison to Polonnaruwa, which is a bit smaller area, so it works slightly better for a short visit. There's some amazing reclining Buddhas, some incredible monuments, and sort of 3-4 hours. It's really nice sort of way to walk around or get on a bike and explore. And it's a really, really interesting place to spend 2-3 days in that kind of area. You then have got the famous national parks, most probably famous for the elephants and the leopards. The different national parks, there's lots of national parks. The three kind of major ones are Yala, Udawalla and Wilpatu. And whichever one, different people are suited to different national parks. So for example, Yala is probably the best place in the world actually to see leopards. Udawalla is one of the best places in Asia to see see elephants in the wild. Wilpatu is probably the lesser visited. You can see all of that, but it's less visited, so it's more of a kind of wilderness experience. And outside in all of those parks, outside of elephants and leopards, you've got incredible bird life, monkeys, reptiles, and you can see sloth bears as well, and they're really kind of great experiences. And although not in a national park, I have just included a picture of a blue whale there, which off the south coast, it's one of the best places in the world to see blue whales. Interestingly, up until about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they didn't even know that they were there. And then it's subsequently discovered to be one of the best places in the world to see them, which, considering the size, is always something that slightly surprises me. Then beyond that, the other sites, you've got Kandy, which is the kind of the cultural heartland. It's in the hill country. It was the capital. It's this city on the bottom right, surrounded by hills, absolutely beautiful. You've got the famous Temple of the Tooth there. You've got the stunning tea plantations in the top right. You've got Gaul with its famous Dutch fort, and beautiful beaches kind of in the area. And then Colombo, which is the modern day capital, which is a bustling city. Used to be somewhere that people would kind of pretty much avoid at all costs. But in the last 10 years, it's really opened up and become a very, very interesting place to spend a couple of days. So, moving on to sort of the logistics, as I said, coming back to the chauffeur guides, to me, these guys are the absolute key to a holiday to Sri Lanka, and getting them right is absolutely key. As I say, you are generally with them for at least a week, and sometimes 10 days, and you know they will make or break the trip. Now we've got a select group of guides that we work with, either employed exclusively by us or pretty much so, and they are absolutely fantastic. We've got Saman on the top right there, who's one of our top guides, and likewise Chami on the bottom right. And we do lots of work with them. We have done lots of training. We do yearly training where myself or one of the guys from the UK office will go out and work with them. And they tell us about what's working for clients. We tell them about what feedback we're getting, and we really kind of try and do a collaborative way of improving constantly how they work. And we just, you know, consistently get such amazing feedback from them, and you know, you hear amazing stories of people, you know, saying that they're like friends, and you know, keeping in touch for years afterwards. And one of the great things that we can do with a small group is that we can match the guides to your interest. So Saman in the top right, for example, is particularly amazing at birds, and is just generally a really kind of laid back, kind of bubbly kind of character. So if that's the kind of, you know, if that's what you're looking for, then he's great. Chami is a really kind of go up and get 'em active guy, really interested in kind of farming. He's got his own kind of private farm, and you know, he's great on the kind of the market tours and that kind of stuff. So you know, they're there, and what it allows them to, and what we encourage them to do a lot of, is get to know you and be flexible. So if you wanted to, you know, if you want to make any slight adjustments, you want to change something, you want to look at doing something in a different way, they can do that for you. And by them getting to know you, then they'll start making suggestions, making stuff, and it really allows them to, you know, to facilitate those genuine encounters across the country that are kind of personalized and special from you, beyond just kind of going and seeing the major, you know, the major site. Another really important element, I think, for Sri Lanka is the boutique hotels, which really are genuinely boutique hotels. So don't know if you know, but boutique hotels is a phrase that gets banded around much too liberally in the travel industry, and you hear hotels of like 200 rooms claiming they're boutique, whereas in Sri Lanka they are actually genuinely boutique hotels. So you know, 4 or 5 bedrooms. A large hotel, in terms of the ones that we would use, would often be kind of 15 rooms. So, you know, really small, really personal service, really, you know, in tune with the local kind of surroundings. And the great thing is there's a huge range of, you know, options, both in terms of, you know, from cheap and cheerful right up to kind of ultra luxury, but also in terms of style. So you've got, you know, traditional colonial hill plantations, you've got really contemporary places on the right, you've got some beautiful kind of beach kind of villa style places, and you've got the kind of, you know, interesting eco retreats there on the top left. So yeah, there's I mean, it really is quite a big selling point. Brings out the natural kind of hospitality and charm that Sri Lankans have. To give you a few examples of that, the first place is a famous place called Tea Trails, which is a collection of colonial bungalows in the tea plantations. There's 5, I think, now. Each one of them is a 4 or 5 bedroom bungalow, or they work as a collective, and it really takes you back into that kind of colonial tea planting experience. So as you can see, the furniture is you know, very stylish, but you know, very traditional. It's a very slow pace of life. It's just brilliant for kind of taking in, you know, taking a book, having a read, sitting on the veranda, taking in the scenery. They've got beautiful tea plantations, stunning surroundings, and the service, as I say, in those sorts of places is just so personal. And the chef will get to know you, the you know, the head boy will get to know you, and they'll start, like, you know, tailoring that service so that it really suits you. Now, Tea Trails, as it happens, is one of the kind of the top end properties, but there's a huge range of other places that offer something kind of similar, but at a lower price if that's what you're, you know, if that's what you're looking to do. You've then got somewhere like the NOTARY'S house, which is a 6-bedroom property about an hour from the airport. Very peaceful, very quiet, beautiful place to kind of start or indeed finish a holiday, just, you know, unwind after or before a flight. These sorts of places will have lots of local activities, so you can hire bikes, you can do a bird watching tour with the local staff. They've got a lake there which you can swim in, or you can just kind of sit by. You can sit by the pool. They do cookery classes. They've got a farm that you can kind of, you know, explore. And again, and this particular property, you know, really kind of amazing value. And you know, much. This is where in Sri Lanka you get the real value for money on these sorts of properties. And then finally, you've got a place like the MUDHOUSE, which, as I say, there is pretty much my favourite place in the entire world. It's a very different place. It's in the middle of nowhere, literally. It's a kind of jungle retreat, all kind of built through using local kind of materials, and it's a whole range of experiences within there. You've got the culture. It's surrounded by kind of a local village, and the local village work there. It uses traditional methods of cooking, of farming, and all of that. So you kind of get that experience. It's got amazing local nature. If you're feeling adventure, I mean, just by staying there, it feels a bit adventurous. But you can do stuff that's, you know, you can go off and do long cycles or do some adventurous stuff, or you can just sit and relax and read. And it's one of those sort of places where, you know, there's no electricity, there's no hot water, but at the same time you are incredibly well looked after. The beds are very comfortable. The service is very high end. So it's not for everyone, but for those who want to kind of push themselves a little bit, it is absolutely an amazing way to do that. So what we then also do is we work very hard on what we call the signature experiences. So in our mind, you know, people want to go to say Sri Lanka because they want to see Sigiriya, or they want to go and see the elephants. But actually, the magic of a country is often not Sigiriya. It is often those random, genuine encounters that I talked about earlier, whether that be sort of meeting a local shopkeeper, playing cricket randomly with some young kids who are playing cricket on the streets, eating a local, really local meal with a local family, finding a spot where you can't see any other person for what looks like 50 miles. That's when you get those kind of magic moments. And so we spend a lot of time kind of facilitating those and making those work. And yeah, so the way that you kind of do that is you've got do the main sites, but with a difference. So add a little twist to get you away from the crowds. Go at a different time where perhaps the crowds are not there. That sort of thing. And but we also do lots of stuff around kind of exclusive tours of village and collection of farms where you get to see local produce, where that's made and how that's made, and get to meet local people. So as I say, there's a lot of focus on that, and for all of our clients, and Charlie are often the same. This is these sorts of moments that people generally say that's the highlight of their holiday. It's those are the moments that people kind of keep with them and have as memories. Oh, I think my machine might, hold on 1 second. I think my machine might have decided to freeze on me. I'm back.
You got that? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So there we go. That kind of gives you a perspective on the signature experience. So it's different perspective, hidden nooks and crannies. It's all about slowing down. It's always about working out how things work, in what order they should go in, giving you time to enjoy stuff, so you're not just kind of being herded around, left, right, and centre, and always, as far as we're concerned, highlighting local food. The food in Sri Lanka is fantastic. The rice and curries are absolutely brilliant. So it's absolutely worth trying to highlight those, and that's a key part of the experiences. Just very briefly, as I don't know how relevant this is for everyone, but it is also worth noting how good Sri Lanka is as a family destination. So for various reasons, all of those that I've talked about before, are absolutely applicable for families. The boutique hotels and that personal service gives kids that space to kind of enjoy it. The hospitality of Sri Lankans is very set up for kids. They're very kind of focused. They're great at engaging with kids. As you see, they'll set up a game of cricket, that kind of stuff. The range of variety that you've got on offer is amazing as well for families. So if you've got a son who's interested in wildlife and a daughter that's really interested in history, you can give them both a little bit of everything, but no one too much of anything. And the very fact that you change and you keep moving from place to place, each time you move you've got a very different thing that you're experiencing, so they don't feel like it's repetitive. And I think a key part of it is, represented by that bottom left. There's so much that happens in Sri Lanka. It's so alive, both in terms of the people, but also in terms of the wildlife and the nature, is that there is always something going on. And what that means is that they, there's something to engage them. There's something to pique their interest, and whatever that might be, they'll grab something, they'll run with it, and they'll get really interested in it. And it's those sorts of things that, as I say, it just is. I think it probably is one of the best family places in the world. So, moving on, beyond those kind of usual sites, I won't go into huge amounts of details here, but there is a huge range for anyone who has been to Sri Lanka, or is likes to escape the crowds, or is really adventurous, or has a particular interest in an area, or just has a longer period of time. There's a huge range of options to see and do that are kind of beyond the normal, whether that be kind of really remote, wildlife retreats, or trekking areas, the beautiful kind of north and east coast that are really quite remote, and the fishing villages and the population that goes on there. Amazing food experiences, some really interesting kind of further in-depth history elements. There's an interesting range within that. So for some people, the bottom picture in the middle, that is a homestay. And that is, as you can probably guess from that picture, it definitely on the basic side. Whereas the top left is a jungle retreat, camping safari, which is really, really quite luxurious. So in that area, you've also got, again, accommodation to suit people. So if you're wanting to really push yourself and stay in a traditional local house, then you can do that. But if you want to get away from the crowds but still have those kind of creature comforts, then you very much have that option as well. So just very briefly, what would a holiday actually look like? So I'll just kind of run through this quickly. So I mean, no two holidays are the same, particularly in somewhere like Sri Lanka with all the variety. But just to give you an idea of the kind of the classic route that people would take, as I say, kind of a 2-week trip, something along those kind of lines. So you'd start, and it's really, really important in my eyes to start with a relaxing couple of days. The Notary's House is a great example of that. So after a 14-hour flight, sorry, no, less than that, sorry, 10-hour flight, driving 4 or 5 hours to the first site is just not an ideal way to start a holiday, I don't think. But so staying in somewhere like Notary's House, where you can relax, you can unwind, you can get over the jet lag, you can be pampered, you can just enjoy yourself, so that after that 24, 48 hours, you're really ready to go and start the adventure. And then from there, you go up to the Cultural Triangle. We tend to say 3 nights in the Cultural Triangle is a good amount of time. Gives you the opportunity to see all the sites, but at the same time, relax in a hotel, come back and enjoy the pool and that sort of thing. You then travel up into the hill country, typically a couple of days in Kandy, a couple of days up in the sort of the higher tea plantation area. You've got the hustle and bustle of the city of Kandy, Temple of the Tooth. You've got the train experience, and then you go up into that tranquility of the tea plantations, seeing a tea factory, the colours, the beauty. That is an amazing area. And then you sort of move down towards nature and the sea. So typically you do a night or two by or in one of the national parks. As I said, depending on what it is that you're interested in seeing and which national park works best for you, that's the opportunity for leopards, elephants, birds, and more. And then you've got the all-important relaxation at the end, bit of time on the beach. There's a range of options there, kind of all along the southwest coast, typically, ranging from really remote, quiet beaches to slightly busier places where there's restaurants and bars and a bit more life kind of going on. Gaul, which I mentioned earlier, which is this photo in the middle, that's quite a popular area for people. It's got some beaches all within sort of half an hour that give it that are kind of quiet enough, but then you can get into Gaul and the restaurants and so if you're people that don't want to just sit on a beach, Gaul is a really, really nice area to do that. But again, you've got that range, and that's where Charlie and myself can come in and help work out what that best beach is for yourself. So I think that's it from me. Is there anything I've missed out, Charlie, or any kind of questions that people have?
If anyone wants to fire some questions, either use the chat button or just call out. I mean, a couple of immediate things I picked up on that, Nick, that I thought I'd follow up on is the you mentioned. I mean, the chauffeur guides, almost without fail, they're the the first bit of great feedback we get from people, you know, how they brought the country to life, and you know, how they become friends, or showed them a different range of bananas, or where to get, you know, what types of tea to have, or the best beer, whatever. It just brings the country to life. That's a fantastic part of it. And also, I was always very wary for a long time about using those properties to begin with on arrival for a couple of nights coming off the plane. I was always perhaps a bit more, let's get on and get going and seeing things, but it works really well. People love it. Just get used to island time, relax, you know, just enjoy the tropical. It's always going to be 30 degrees. You just get used to just the timings, which are, there's abrupt dawns and abrupt dusks, you know, the tropical heat. Just chill out by a pool and walk in the local area. It's a fantastic start to the the holidays. So you know, those are a couple of things I'd just pick up from what you're saying. So does anyone have any particular questions now, or anything that's, you know, got any queries on?
Yeah, Charlie, it's Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Looks great. Thanks, Joe. Looks a bit like looks a little bit like Thailand, actually. Just wondered though about what's the security like over there. Both kind of, you know, obviously there was the terror attacks over there, which wouldn't be so much of a worry to me because they can happen anywhere. But what about the kind of civil war leftovers, and how safe is it?
Nick, do you want to do that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah, it's safe. So the Civil War finished in 2009, and since then, so that was the majority population is Sinhalese, and then you've got a Tamil Sinhalese Buddhist and Tamil Hindu population in the north, and following 2009, there hasn't been any kind of major security issues. You know, you get political disagreements and, you know, etc., and rallies and that kind of stuff. But you know, from a kind of security point of view, there hasn't been any issues. You know, I've been Sri Lanka sort of 7 or 8 times since then, and you know, always feeling absolutely safe and secure, and it's kind of, and that's partly why. So, you know, I alluded to Colombo being somewhere that you 10 years ago I didn't just allude to it, I said it, so it's that you kind of got out as quickly as you could. But actually what's happened since the Civil War finished is that everything's kind of opened up much more, and huge areas that Colombo were cut off are now kind of opened up. So in that sense, it's really nothing to worry about. And yeah, as you say, the bombings last year were not in any way connected. So that came from the Muslim community, which, as you say, you know, was connected to wider international terrorism, which, you know, effectively could happen anywhere.
And just on that, Jim, I mean, Nick showed at one stage some pictures of the East Coast beaches, which are, I know we try, you know, there's some false assumptions there, but East Coast beaches, particularly in our summer months, or so some of the months are the best ones to go to. Those were closed off for a number of years, but have been open now for 10 years, I guess, roughly 8-9 years. Yeah. Interesting thing about the blue whales and sperm whales, there's so many of them around the island, that those beaches, I think, Nick, have a different, you can see the whales on different season on the East Coast, is that right?
You can, yeah, you can. So they travel up these. They haven't yet worked out their sort of migration patterns. So they think they're there, but they haven't yet worked out a reliable way of seeing them. And where you can see them, it's not really a touristy area. So it is possible to see them up in Trincomalee, but it's not as reliable as it is on the south coast, and it's generally slightly more dolphins that you see there on a regular basis. But yeah, you can still see them there. And as Charlie
and there
said,
is some superb diving up there as well, isn't there?
There's some very good diving up there, yeah. I mean, that is one area that it's different to Thailand. So the nature, if you've been to Thailand or that sort of place, the sea there is quite calm. It's quite you know, it's sort of protected, whereas Sri Lanka is in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and south of Sri Lanka is nothing. So it's on the edge of the continental shelf. So you do get quite big currents, which, you know, if you look at, you know, what it then see is that sort of, you know, beautiful beaches, but quite rugged, and, you know, so whereas Thailand you'll get that much more kind of peaceful, calm tranquility, but actually the East Coast does provide that much more, because it's more protected than the South. So the East Coast, if that's the sort of thing you're looking for the beach, that's another reason why the East Coast can be really good, again, particularly in the summer months.
And there's great surfing in many parts.
Excellent surfing, yeah. Well, like world-class surfing on the east and particularly on the east, but the south there's some very good surfing as well. Also good kite surfing if you're into that sort of thing, up on the west coast. So yeah.
Right, thanks, Jay. Any other questions out there?
You have some fabulous pictures of the trains. Is there any leg of the journey you would sort of recommend doing by train?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so the train is one of the key things that people want to do. It's probably one of the most picturesque train journeys in the world. It is, you know, you're not doing it for speed and efficiency, just to pre-warn you. So to give you some context, your driver will drop you at the station and then will drive on ahead and meet you at the other side. But it is absolutely stunning. And what I mean, I think partly the reason why it's so stunning, I'm going to go off on a detour here, but anyway, is that the island, the hills in the middle of the island kind of jump up really quickly. So on the south and the east of that, so place Ella, for example, you go from about 2,000 meters to sea level in, you know, 20k or something. So if you're on the edge of that, you can just see you can see on the southern edge of the hill country, you can see on a clear day, you can see the south coast, which is 100 kilometers away. So the scenery up there is absolutely stunning, and the train basically weaves its way around. So the absolute best place to do the train is there's an old hill station called Nurelia, which is in the centre of the tea plantations. Was kind of very much where the British and colonial people, you know, who lived out there, that's where they went to escape the heat. And is unfortunately is one of those sorts of places that you wouldn't really want to spend that much time in now. It's kind of a bit overcrowded, and but you got the big hotels there, so you know, we tend to kind of avoid it. But going from Kandy into the beautiful Eastern Hills, you can drive you could get the train all the way, but then you're looking at 6 hours, which, you know, the facilities on the train are relatively basic, so most people don't want to do that. But what you can then do is drive the first half, say 3 hours, and then just spend a couple of hours on the train on the particularly beautiful bit, which is from Nanoya, which is Nurelia, all the way across to Haputale, Ella, Bandarwala, whichever area you're staying in.
And there are some other train rides as well you can fit in, but that particular one is
yeah,
possibly one of the, you know, best 2 or 3 hour train rides you're going to find anywhere. Yeah, exactly. So you can, you know, the journeys around Kandy are beautiful. You can do some interesting. There's a train that goes from Colombo down to Galle, which basically goes along the coast, and that's a really interesting journey as well. So it kind of depends on your itinerary, but the absolute classic is that one in the hills. Anyone else got any?
Yeah, when's the cricket season?
Well, actually, I was just gonna raise that with Nick, because Nick, you do quite a lot of cricket stuff there, don't you? You would have been doing a lot over this late winter period.
Yes, we would have been. So yeah, well, I mean, I personally have been to. I wasn't going to this one, but I've managed to keep my record going with the tour being cancelled. But I've been to every England tour to Sri Lanka since 2007. And it's an amazing place to watch cricket. Absolutely incredible. Galle is just, I don't know if you know it, but you've got the Dutch fort and you've got the ground there, and you've got this amazing UNESCO heritage place, and then you've got the ocean kind of all around it. It is an incredible place to watch cricket. England, there are rumours that England are going to be touring in January. They're going to postpone it till then, but obviously, whether that will actually happen or not at the moment, we don't know. But the classic season is January to April. That's traditional season, but it's one of those where obviously they don't have a winter in the same way here, so you will get people playing cricket quite regularly. And England, for example, toured in 2018 in October, November, which was right in the middle of the rainy season. But yeah, the place, the time when you see locals playing and the schools are playing, that's kind of January to April.
Thanks. And you've been able to get tickets for the test matches or the one days if needed, Nick, is that right?
Yeah, so that's no problem. The one days are not really a major problem, but the test matches we can get tickets. What we actually did, so last time, it's probably not that interesting for anyone who's not interested in cricket, but anyway, last time we did it, we arranged, so there's a hotel in Galle, was where we did this example is hotel, 5-10 minute walk from the grounds, and the food in the ground is atrocious, like really rubbish hot dogs. So we kind of we didn't want to leave our clients to eat that, so we included within the tickets, we took everyone down to this hotel, and we included a buffet lunch, and everyone had a nice relaxing lunch overlooking the sea, and then we also had a guy who worked for us at the time, who went out there and basically he was basically there the waiter. So we had about 60 or 70 people at Galle, and he was just going around buying people beer, and because it was quite cheap to buy beer, but there was quite big queues, so he could just go around and keep everyone topped up over the course of the day, and just generally make sure that people were good.
Well done, good stuff. Any other questions out there? Nick, can I just ask? It's I suppose it's a bit of an elephant in the room there at the moment, and the coronavirus COVID scenario for travel. I mean, most tour operators that we deal with in countries around the world are changing their policies, and they're being more flexible with terms and conditions and those sort of things. I mean, how is it from your point of view?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, it's causing quite a lot of flux in the travel industry, as you can imagine, and well, you personally know too well. But I mean, I think what we are, it's obviously slightly sort of second guessing how people are going to be responding to this in the future, but we're of the opinion that people are going to want to travel once they're allowed, but there's going to be absolutely going to be an increased uncertainty about how that's going to look and what might happen, and etc. and so on. So yeah, we're really trying to open up as much flexibility as we can, to kind of give people that kind of option. So we're looking at flexible deposits. We are putting in, actually, we're working on a COVID guarantee, which we're just working on the specifics, so I can't go into actual details, but at the moment there looks like there's going to be a bit of a gap. So if the FCO advises against travel, then tour operators are responsible and we have to offer a refund. Whereas typically if clients get ill and can't travel, then that's an insurance issue. But insurance companies are refusing to cover for people getting COVID. So what that would mean is that if someone got COVID 2 weeks prior to travel, wasn't allowed to travel, they would then be stuck. So we are working on a COVID guarantee, which basically means that if you don't travel, if you cannot travel because of COVID, then we will refund you. And what we're also doing is delaying balances is slightly, but importantly, we're looking at ways to offer flexibility. So up to, say 4 weeks prior to departure, if you're looking at it and you're thinking you're not quite, there's been a bit of an outbreak at the moment, can we postpone? Then we'll do that free of charge. We'll do the same holiday, as long as you're staying within the same time frame, you're not going at Christmas or whatever. We'll do the same price. If one of you, one of the party wants to pull out and you've got a friend who wants to come, then you can bring them in free of charge, up until sort of 4 weeks prior. So it's that sort of thing that we're really trying to work on, and as I say, give people that kind of peace of mind, that kind of security, that kind of flexibility to know that they're, that you still can have that holiday planned, but you've got that security that, if something happens, you're not going to lose your money.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah. I mean, we are, we're hearing similar sort of stuff from most operators, just looking for that, to give people that reassurance and the flexibility if they feel they might need to change their plans. Okay. Have we got any other questions? I can't see anything on the chat, but please, if I haven't picked up that, anything else out there, or I think we're probably done then. I mean, Nick, thank you. That was brilliant. I know from my trip planned later in the year, the bits I'm particularly looking forward to are getting back up into the hill country and staying at that amazing Mudhouse place that I've heard so much about over the years. I just can't wait to get there.
Yeah, well, I as I said, I am not. I don't jest when I say it's probably my favourite place in the world, and it is partly, there are personal connections there that make it particularly special for me, but it is an absolutely mind-boggling place for its uniqueness and wonder. And I think what a lot of people look at it and think that it's somewhere that looks scary because you don't have electricity. But if you're intrigued but you're a bit dubious about it, just trust yourself and just push yourself, and you'll be rewarded, because you'll be looked after so well, and you'll just it will just be like somewhere that you've never stayed in before. Yeah,
can't wait, and really can't wait, and really looking forward to getting out and seeing it, and yeah, I mean, and there we are, guys. I mean, we do a lot of stuff to Sri Lanka. We do and we work closely with Nick and the experienced team. We'd love to help you if you want to plan a trip. I'm happy to answer any questions on it another time. You know how to get hold of me here. So Nick, thanks so much for that. It was absolutely brilliant. This is the first of a few webinars we got planned over the next few weeks. The next one up is going to be Japan on Thursday the 4th of June. We'll put the events out on Facebook, Twitter, our marketing emails. It'd be great, if anyone could join us for that. And once again, Nick, thank you so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in and hearing about why we like Sri Lanka so much.
Charlie, just a quick one. Sorry, I realised that I forgot to do the day in the life thing that you asked me to do. Do you want me to just finish on that?
Go on then, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just something that we've kind of put together to give a bit of an idea of the kind of magic of Sri Lanka. It's sort of indicative of a day. The exact specifics, you could probably argue might not never happen in quite that way, but it's just to give you an idea of the kind of spontaneity and magic that you can get in Sri Lanka. So this is day in the life of a Sri Lanka holiday. 9 a.m. Wake up, have a breakfast of egg hoppers and curry. Mangoes are in season, and the chef prepares a delicious fresh lassi to accompany it. As you eat, two kingfishers swoop in the air around you. 10 a.m. Start your drive to a national park to go wildlife watching. En route, an elephant appears from the undergrowth by the side of the road, and you watch as it crosses your path. 12:30. You're driving to lunch, and your chauffeur guide suggests that you stop for a coconut on the roadside. As you sit, you notice hundreds of bats in the tree above you, fanning themselves from the midday heat. 3 p.m. You're on your way to visit a temple and find yourself stuck in traffic. Your chauffeur guide goes out to investigate, and it turns out there is a festival occurring in town. You park up and go to join the festivities instead. 6 p.m. You want to go for an evening drink, but tell your chauffeur guide that you'd rather not go somewhere that most tourists go. He takes you instead to a local toddy tavern where you try cocktails made with the traditional spirit. 8:30, it's time for dinner. After an extraordinary spread, you get chatting to your waiter. You bond over a shared love of cricket and chat away into the night.
Yeah, great. That makes it even better. Like, you want to go even more now.
Well, thanks you all for joining. It's been a pleasure from my side.
Great. Thanks, Nick. So thanks so much. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks.
All the best.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.